just like to take you back to what was made public when I wrote to the leader of the opposition in May, at the end of May 2022.
Hello, my viewers and subscribers. Welcome to another episode of Jamaica Politics Uncovered. In this episode, we are going to explore why Mark Golding is not in favor of a referendum for Jamaica to become a republic. So first, let us look at what a referendum is, and then we'll look at the history of referendums where the Jamaican people are concerned. So a referendum, guys, is a general vote by the electorate on a single political question that has been referred to them for a direct decision. You may remember Norman Manley and the referendum of 1961. That was the last referendum we had in Jamaica. Referendums are important for decisions that are as important as Jamaica's final court or Jamaica's republic. Norman Manley was a firm believer in the people's inclusion when it comes to the determination of our future.
The strength of a democracy lies in the people. Their choices reflect their voice, their concerns, their hopes.
The strength of his belief in the right of people to choose, and his amazingly philosophical willingness to accept the choices even when they were contrary to what he would have wished, and maybe sometimes defeated him.
So in 1961, a referendum on continued membership of the Federation of the West Indies was held in Jamaica. This was done on 19th of September 1961. Voters were asked, should Jamaica remain in the Federation of the West Indies? The result was 54% voting no, and the rest, 45.89%, voted yes. So, Jamaica left the Federation. This moment in history of leaving the Federation was followed by Jamaica's independence. And you are looking at images of this conference that was held in London. And it was a good thing. I mean, Norman Manley may have been disappointed about leaving the Federation, but the people made their decision. The majority of the people made their choice, and he was very respectful of that. You heard his son. His son spoke about how he was very much about the people determining their own future. And that is a good thing. I imagine as a leader, you would feel better leading, knowing that you are making the people feel that this is their journey and they have a voice and their voices matter, you know? So here we are today with Jamaica facing this decision of becoming a republic. You have the government who is saying, let's do it in phases. As PJ Patterson suggested in 2022, he made a public appeal to the government and opposition to find common ground and to come together and make Jamaica a republic. In 2022, former Prime Minister PJ Patterson said that the government and the opposition should come together and make Jamaica a republic. PJ Patterson also went in detail, giving advice on how it should be done. He suggested doing it in phases. He suggested even a referendum. Mr. Patterson feels that a referendum would be a spectacular contribution to building Jamaica's parliamentary democracy. At the end of the last month, Prime Minister Andrew Holness told the Jamaican people that there will be a comprehensive review of the Constitution. And so the government moved forward to do it. Now, the opposition appointed Senator Donna Scott and Member of Parliament Anthony Hilton to the committee where they have been listening and talking with members of the government on this committee regarding Jamaica's republic. All of a sudden, Mark Golding comes out and inserted himself and said, hey, don't sign anything until Jamaica decides to completely disassociate and leave the Privy Council as well. That's what that press conference was about. See, it says here, RJ reported opposition not in favor of referendum to decide Jamaica's final appellate court. This was published yesterday, which means that Mark Golding not only said to the government, you need to leave the Privy Council at the same time while you are making us a republic. Mark Golding is also saying that the Parliament should decide Jamaica's final court. Not a referendum. Not a referendum like what Norman Manley was in favor of and like what took place in 1961. He wants the Parliament to decide and not the Jamaican people, while the government is saying that they're thinking it's a good idea to let the Jamaican people decide their final court, whether it's Privy Council, whether it's Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean court, or to let it be in our own country, in Jamaica. As we can see here, news spreads fast. According to New York Amsterdam News, Jamaica's road to a republic hits a major snag. This was published yesterday when Mark Golding did his press conference to say that he and the senator and the MP that he appointed to the committee will not sign anything unless and until the government decides to leave the Privy Council at the same time. Mark Golding said that he's willing to wait. He's willing to wait. So it is possible that he will not get on board and will not, do what PJ suggested or what the Jamaican people really want. I think Jamaican people are in favor of becoming a republic. And I think the right side of history to be on is to allow a referendum and let the Jamaican people decide our final court. Here the Amsterdam paper says, now Jamaica's latest effort to join fellow CARICOM member states Guyana, Trinidad, Barbados, and Dominica as a republic have hit a major snag. The main opposition, People's National Party, has reminded all and sundry in the past week that it will not vote in Parliament to support the move unless and until the governing Jamaica Labour Party agrees to a full decolonization process all at once by ditching the British Privy Council at the country's final court. It goes on to say the PNP wants the Trinidad-based Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, to be the island's apex court. Unless this is done, the PNP will not support any moves to republicanism because it describes ditching the monarchy, but not the Privy Council as a half measure that it does not agree with. As you can see, it says nothing about a referendum and including the Jamaican people in this most important decision about their final court. For those of you who are not aware, Mark Golding is a British citizen. Mark Golding's mother and father were both born in the UK. Mark Golding being born to those parents before 1983 is technically a British citizen. He tells people that he gave up his UK passport, but that does not mean anything because he is still a British citizen. I don't know if that has any bearing on the way that he views Jamaica's road to republic or even the history of the People's National Party, where former leaders were and are in favor of referendums and giving the Jamaican people a voice rather than just the parliament. As I showed you guys, Norman Manley, his son Michael Manley, and even PJ Patterson were and are in favor of the people voicing their opinion and making their decision on the future of their country where their final court is concerned. It is concerning for me personally to hear an opposition leader say that the people must not decide, the parliament should. in a major decision such as our final court, and at a time when we just saw what happened with the Vibes Cartel case and the Privy Council. Hear what Prime Minister Andrew Holness said yesterday after the opposition leader of Jamaica, Mark Golding, told his committee members that they should not sign off on anything that has to do with Jamaica becoming a republic.
Initial assessment of the response of the opposition is that I am disappointed, but I am not surprised. I am not surprised that they would have tried to find every way out of seeing this process through to its rightful conclusion. I would like to say to the Jamaican people that the efforts that the government has made is not in vain, that we will continue to pursue consensus, because the truth is that you cannot disturb the constitutional and governance architecture of the country without consensus. That is the reality. And consensus takes time, and it takes effort. So I speak to you today as Prime Minister of the country, not as leader of a political party seeking power, but as someone who is genuinely interested in the advance of our country. And so I want to assure Jamaicans that the process continues. We are in a certain season described by others as silly. I tend to sometimes agree. But we will get over it, and Jamaica will evolve into its rightful form, constitutionally, governance, in terms of our economic independence, and socially. The journey continues.
What I think Jamaica should do at this time is do what the PNP did in 1961, and what PJ Patterson is suggesting is to go ahead and let it be a referendum. Allow the Jamaican people to decide whether or not they want to become a republic, and if so, how they want to proceed with our final court. Let them decide. I think that's the best thing to do. I don't think the government should be fighting with Mark Golding to get his stamp of approval or to get him to come on board. I think this decision is really a very important and a big decision, because long after Mark Golding is gone and Andrew Holness are gone, there is going to be a Jamaican society whose lives and freedoms depend on the decision that is made here. So it is the people who should decide. The government said that they're in favor of the referendum where the final court is concerned. Let the people decide. The decision is not up to Mark Golding, and it should not be up to the government. This is one that requires a referendum, like we've seen in the past and like PJ Patterson suggested. In the meantime, I think it is important for Jamaica to try and make its justice system better, try to make it more efficient, and try to make the Jamaican people have a bit more confidence in our justice system, right? That way, when that decision is to be made, I'm in favor of our final court being in Jamaica, right? And I want our people to have the full confidence in our system. So I think that's where we need to put our energies as a people and as a country right now, so that when the time comes for the decision, the Jamaican people will more likely decide that we should, control our own destiny. And if they decide to go to the CCJ at that time, then so be it. But I think the people should decide. Like Norman Manley, I believe that our people must have a voice in charting our destiny, not just a few parliamentarians. As for the members of the opposition, Donna Scott Motley, Anthony Hilton, I would encourage those guys to remember who they are. Remember who we are as Jamaicans. It is not Jamaican of us to say to the Jamaican people, no referendum, we will decide. No, that's not how we've done it. That's not how the People's National Party has done it. Remember who you are. It's okay to break ranks from Mark Golding because he is on the wrong side of history. The government is in favor of the referendum. The PNP has always been in favor of a referendum. So, break ranks with Mark Golding. He's not on the right side of history. This is not a dictatorship. Our people's voices matter.
Arthur, do not underestimate the absence of consensus at this time and the critical importance of ensuring that when we move with a change, by and large, it is what the majority of Jamaicans are saying. Because we're always going to have the minority view on matters. But as far as we have read the pulse, there is consensus on changing our head of state and replacing King Charles III, King of Jamaica, with a Jamaican president for the Republic of Jamaica.
Morning, Minister. Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News here. Question, was a new Senate composition part of the deliberations with the CRC? And if so, what were those deliberations?
Yes, a new Senate composition was part of the deliberation because it is a matter that is deeply entrenched. The previous recommendation spoke to the expansion of the Senate beyond representatives of the two-party in the Parliament to having a wider representation, what's called independent senators. And the other jurisdictions in the Caribbean that attained independence after Jamaica have similar provisions. Yes. And just to say, you know, although when you're making substantial shifts in the nation, you may sometimes have to get an indicative, make an indicative call from the people. And the matter of the court is a fundamental matter. In one breath, I've heard it said, don't take the pulse of the people on it. But if we remain as divided as we are, we may have to hear from the people formally on the matter of the final court. As we know, we must move to make a decision on which final court.
All right. Do we have, we do.
Two questions. Good morning again, Ministers. Shoshana Small from the Gleaner. Minister, I know you've been speaking about the final court, but I believe it was in May, or October rather, that you said that the government would state its position. We're now in May, 7 months later, and we haven't heard anything, any indication as to what the position may be.
I think, Shoshana, it is that many have bought into the narrative that the government has been unclear about it. The government has not been unclear about the matter. The government has said that as part of the move to make Jamaica a republic, we will have to decide on a final court. At one stage, there were three options before us: acceding to the appellate jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice, bearing in mind that we already have the original jurisdiction. The Caribbean Court of Justice is part of our court structure because we're a member of the Caribbean community. Believe it or not, there are many Jamaicans who are saying retain the Privy Council in spite of all of the challenges. And I think after the cartel case, when I've read the comments online, I see so many still discussing the matter. And some have floated the idea of a local final court because they're saying that if you move from London, you don't want to move to Port of Spain. And if we're talking about real decolonization, it means that you're bringing it to Jamaica. And even as I looked through the comments after the leader of the opposition's press release, I saw that point being raised again and again. It's just an indication that the views are many and varied on this matter, and we will have to work to arriving at consensus on it. The majority of the People's National Party may have gotten to that place, but we also know that members who identify with the People's National Party have expressed another view on the matter.
Okay.
Thank you for watching, guys. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know if you agree with the referendum or if you think that Jamaica should establish its final court locally in Trinidad or in the UK.